Office of General Services Commissioner, Jeanette Moy. Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services Commissioner, Jackie Bray. New York State Labor Department Commissioner, Roberta Reardon. Department of Financial Services Superintendent, Adrian Harris. Former Congress member, Carolyn Maloney. Office for the Prevention of Domestic Violence Executive Director, Kelly Owens. DASNY President, Robert Rodriguez. Office for Victim Services, Bia Hansen. New York State Department of Transportation Commissioner, Marie-Therese Dominguez. Please welcome Somos Community Care Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Yomaris Pena. Please welcome Rosie Henriquez. New York State AFL-CIO President, Mario Salento. New York State Senate Majority Leader, Andrea Stewart Cousins. New York State Assembly Speaker, Carl Hastie. President of Henry Street Settlement, David Garza. And now, please welcome the 57th Governor of the great state of New York, Governor Kathy Hochul.
Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. I wish all of you peace, health, and hope in 2025 and beyond. Welcome to the Lower East Side. Welcome to Henry Street Settlement. This is one of Henry Street Settlement's 18 locations, and this year marks our 132nd year providing services to over 50,000 New Yorkers every year. Our work is in the area of shelter and transitional housing, education, employment, healthcare, and the arts. This center right here is our Boys and Girls Republic. It's an after-school program where the youth hold the position of elected officials. They make the legislation, they make the rules, they set the agenda, they determine what to do with the budget. It's an important commitment we have to the youth of our community to make sure that they know their voice and that their voice leads to choice. So we're specifically honored to host Governor Hochul and this announcement here today at this site. Welcome to BGR. It also happens to be the mecca of sports on the Lower East Side for anyone who's paying attention to Lower East Side sports. Today, we're here to talk about what Henry Street has known for 132 years, affordability. For a family to be able to put food on the table, for a family to be able to afford health care, are primary variables in how they can live, how they can survive, and how they can thrive. All the more fitting that we host Governor Hochul this morning here to give these announcements to Henry Street Settlement. We know that legislation paves the path to progress. I give you everyone, Governor Kathy Hochul, Governor of New York State.
Thank you so much. It's a new year in New York, and this year means new money in your pockets. Today we stand together to continue the fight for your families that I started when I first became governor 3 years ago. Our fight for your families, but also to make New York more affordable for all of our hard-working families. And I'm proud to stand with our elected leaders, labor leaders, healthcare leaders, community leaders, to speak with one voice that says when we stand up, we fight, and we win. Amen. And I want to acknowledge some of the extraordinary people that I've had the pleasure to serve with. A governor doesn't do this alone. I have partners in our state legislature who I have such respect for, who have been champions at my side. Together we march forward in defining new ways to lift up New Yorkers. And I want to acknowledge Majority Leader Andre Stewart Cousins, the leader of the New York State Senate. Thank you for all you do. Thank you. And the Speaker of the New York State Assembly, Carl Heastie, another great ally and partner. But also, we have so many ways we partner with our friends in labor as they bring ideas to us and how we can make sure, as the proud labor state of New York, that we deliver for our workers every day. And that person leading that effort is our leader, Mario Salento, the president of the AFL-CIO. Mario. You'll be hearing from Rosie Enriquez of the Northern Manhattan Prenatal Partnership, Dr. Pena from Somos Community Care, and we also want to acknowledge James Javis, the president of PSE CUNY here, but also I could probably do a cabinet meeting. My entire cabinet seems to be here. I want to have them please stand up. Stand up. Thank you. These are the ones who bring forth ideas, who help us get them over the finish line and to implement them, and I'm so grateful for their service. Also, members of the state legislature, all of you have been acknowledged. You're going to be acknowledged again by your leaders, but I look forward to this next session with a heart full of openness and a way we can work together to deliver for the people who put us in our jobs. And so I want to recognize all of our leaders in the legislature as well as the members of the Assembly and the Senate here today. Members of Labor, 32BJ, NISNA, PSC CUNY, and 1199, and all of us, again, the AFL-CIO for all you do. Now listen, I know what's going on out there. I actually grocery shop, yes. My husband and I have an apartment not far from here. We walk down this area often. We fill up our grocery cart, and our jaws drop, and we're the ones who can afford it. When I see the cost of everything from my almond milk that goes in my smoothie to the bananas, the berries, the toothpaste we need, paper towels, I look at that and say, how do people make ends meet? It is just so damn expensive. And then I go shopping in Albany. I'm back home in Buffalo. I shop there. I go to the malls. Yeah, we get to buy our stuff too. Nobody buys this. I'm one of the lucky ones. I know that. But there are too many people in this state who do not have what I have. I know that. And I am their voice. I want them to know that I've seen the same prices in the grocery store. I watch my son and daughter-in-law look at the price of formula and diapers and how high they are. I know what it's like. Middle-class families who've been working hard their whole lives are just feeling the squeeze, and it's no fault of their own. They didn't ask for inflation to drive up everything. They didn't see this coming. It's like came out of the blue. What happened here? I'm old enough to remember when inflation was high back in the 70s, right? None of you remember that. It was bad. I watched my mom. 8 mouths she had to figure out how to feed. I got so sick of tuna fish casserole. I mean, like, it doesn't even, sorry, Mom. Sorry. She tried. She tried. You know, Spam out of a can. You slice it up, you fry it, and you call it dinner. I know what that's like. I thought that was what everybody ate. Most people in my neighborhood did. But I watched her stretch to make every penny matter, to try and give us our clothes at the used clothing stores or to put it on layaway. You know what that's like? It's embarrassing when you have to walk up to not the checkout, but you go over to that other booth and someone watches you pull your kids' clothes out of a cart. And you hope to see them in another month or two and you might have enough money to pick them up. That was my family. And it hurts and it's embarrassing when you're a kid. I don't want anybody else to do that. As a new mom starting out, I couldn't find childcare. I had to leave a job I loved. My husband left a job, went to work as a public servant. We didn't have a lot of money. We were a new couple, a lot of love. Figured out we'll make it. We did make it. But I remember dreading going out to those big discount stores and filling up the cart with the diapers and the toilet paper and everything else. Like, oh my God, that's a couple $100. Where am I going to get that from? I also hear your stories too. You may not know this about me, but I talk to everybody. On the subways, if you've been on the subways with me, you probably have a selfie and we had a nice conversation. We do that in grocery stores. We did it at Queens Center just a couple weeks ago, holiday shoppers. I hear your stories too, and I internalize those stories. Those stories become my stories as well. And I see you all working harder than ever before and feeling like you're falling farther and farther behind. You know, parents like skimping on their own meals so their kids can eat. An expectant mom trying to decide whether she can take time off work because that means she will not get paid for those hours to go to that essential prenatal visit so she and her baby have healthier outcomes. That's a calculation I talk to moms, and they tell me they've skipped those appointments because they can't afford to leave work. That is heartbreaking. And we're trying to find ways to get at the unconscionably high maternal and infant mortality rates. It starts when the baby's in the womb and you have to give them care then, and you can't be missing those appointments. But for a lot of moms, they don't have a choice. And then we have people with diabetes. It's a vicious disease. My father-in-law succumbed to it. Watched him, proud man, veteran, cabinet maker, proud to raise his family, but he was taken down by this disease. And senior citizens who have to decide whether they can afford the insulin payments and the co-pays and the groceries and the rent. Come on, this is New York. We can do better than that. We can do better, and we're doing better. And when I became governor, I said, I'm going to find ways to put more money back in your pockets, and today that's exactly what we're doing. As of January 1st, if you're earning minimum wage, you just got a raise. That's right. $16.50 an hour in New York City, Long Island, and Westchester, and $15.50 across the state. And for someone working 40 hours a week, that's an extra $1,000 per year. And guess what? Oh, that's great. This time next year, another $1,000. And then we're going to do it until we can give you an adjustment for inflation. Now, that's never been done before. Never been done. We will figure out how you can finally start getting ahead. Because we've seen over the last few years how brutal inflation has been. It just adds to the stress of everyday life. And if you're working full-time, you should have a real living wage and not see your wages gobbled up by inflation and increasing costs. So here's the deal. Inflation goes up, your wages will go up. Think about that. You don't have to go back to the collective bargaining table. You have to go back to your employer. Your wages will go up automatically when inflation goes up. Right, Commissioner Reardon? All right, my Commissioner of Labor is here. She supports this. Now, I have a little bit of some areas I'm more of an authority than others. I'm a former expectant mom. Did it twice. Okay? Most people in my position have not been able to talk about that experience in the past. If you're not getting that care, you're not giving your baby the best shot in life. And that's why we are now the first state in the United States of America to have guaranteed paid leave for prenatal visits. Starting this week, tens of thousands of New Yorkers, from home health care aides to hourly restaurant workers and countless others who do not have a salary they can count on, will no longer have to make the impossible choice between losing money in their paycheck and getting prenatal care for their babies. Now, if you're making, I don't know, it's even a nice wage like $28 an hour, right? You can now take 20 hours a week off. Not a week. During the pregnancy. Can't get too greedy. Calm down, employers, you're gonna be okay. 20 hours during the pregnancy, which is about right. And you're not gonna lose the money you would have lost. That's another $560 back in your pocket. That's another $560. Because that's a choice you should not have to make between taking care of yourselves and your baby and taking care of your family. And again, speaking about health care, if you need insulin to survive, all of us have a family member, I guarantee it, who understands what this is all about. You shouldn't have to break the bank to get your care. And that's why, for the first time ever, we've eliminated insulin copays for New Yorkers who are in state-regulated health plans. Now, for you, that's about $1,200 more in your pockets every year and more medicine in your medicine cabinet as well. That's what we're talking about. More money back in your pockets. Now, I did a little calculation. If you're an expectant mom who earns minimum wage and happens to be diabetic, that's $2,700 more in your pocket. That's how it adds up. That's how it starts making a difference. So, when times are tough, we listen. We hear you loud and clear. Your elected leaders, the representatives in this room, and the city council members as well, who have joined us, I want to acknowledge them as well. You tell us you need help, or we hear you need help, we're going to continue delivering real solutions that make a difference. And we're just getting started. So stay tuned. All of you are having a nice holiday season. I was wrapping up 800 bills. Thank you, legislators. Glad you had a good time. Working on my budget. Thank you to my entire budget team who've been working nonstop, and also working on my State of the State address. Coming up with impactful policy ideas that I want to work with the legislature to get over the finish line, because every one of them has one person in mind, and that is you. That is you and your families. And so when I deliver my State of the State address in a couple of weeks, I've already given you a sneak preview. It's like watching the trailers to the movies, right? You know about the $500, right? You've all heard about this one. Our novel plan to put $500 back in the pockets of families of people earning over $300,000 or less. We're hitting a lot of people with that one. Because our view is that money never should have been taken out of your pockets. That's because you paid more for everything you bought for the last 3 years because of inflation. And the state of New York, when I saw the numbers that we collected $3 billion more than we anticipated because of inflation, money coming out of your pockets, we said, you know what? Let's put it back in the pockets it came out of. And that's for individuals, $300, $500 for families. That's what I'm talking about. My friends, I will never stop fighting for the hardworking men and women of this state. It's in my blood. It's in my DNA. I love a good fight. Let's try not to have too many this year, but because I know this. When individual New Yorkers get ahead, we all get ahead. And that's how we succeed as a state, and I could not be prouder to be your governor. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Thank you for your support for these and everything else we're going to be doing over the next year. Thank you. With that, let me introduce our Speaker of the New York State Assembly, Speaker Carl Heastie, who's joined us here today, and he'll also acknowledge our members who've joined us. Carl Heastie.
So as the governor said, in about a week, I hope to get reelected as Speaker, so I better be good to these members. So, of course, we have Harvey Epstein, Rebecca Seawright, Alex Boris, Jessica Gonzalez-Rojas, Udelka Tapia, Farah Safran Forrest, and Stephen Raga. Oh, and David Weprin. They gave me the list, sorry. So, when I got elected Speaker in 2015, I can't believe it's been 10 years, and it'll be my 11th session since I was elected Speaker. And for us in the Assembly, we said we wanted to have a families first agenda. And when you look at all of the history of the things that we've done, from fully funding education to expanding childcare to keeping tuition costs down in our colleges, even expanding eligibility for TAP. All of these things we've done to try to keep costs down. But one of the big factors of why things have gotten so expensive for families is people's incomes have not risen at the same rate as costs have. So when you increase the inflation, and I remember my conversation with Mario Salento when we were talking about this, and people were debating over what the number should be, whether we should start at $21 or $16 or $15. I remember Mario said to me, the fact that we, for the first time ever, are indexing the minimum wage to inflation is such a historic thing. And that was the big victory that we had gotten by indexing it to inflation. Because now that means, the minimum wage fights, you have it every 5 years, it stayed flat. And then all of a sudden you have a discussion and it becomes part of a political football, and people's wages should never be a political football, because this is what they put on, used to put the food on the tables. And then when you look at, as the governor said, trying to now, as you try to keep costs down, but we also want to put more money back into people's pockets. And, this country is the greatest country in the world, but there's just certain things that we take for granted that should be basic. And so people having to pay for insulin, which is such a life-saving medicine. So for us to make that have no copay, that's really putting, as I said, families first. And unlike the governor and the majority leader, I didn't have the privilege of being a mom, but I'm a dad who supports moms. And oftentimes we always think, well, as long as you have your maternal leave and paternal leave, but there are needs that the baby and the moms have before they even have the baby. And I just think it's great for us as leaders, and to my partner and government, my wonder twin, Andrew Stewart Cousins. These are the things that we stand for, really trying to put people and families, first. And as the governor said, we've been in long discussion, myself, the governor, and the majority leader. I think, I don't want to spoil anything that the governor's going to put into her state of the state, but I think people are going to be pleased to see how much of a concentration we're really going to have on trying to put money back into people's pockets, because, again, nothing else matters when you're sitting at that table and struggling to figure out how to pay for all of the things that is needed. So I just want to thank all of my partners in government, all of Labor for Everybody being here, and Happy New Year.
Please welcome Majority Leader Andrea Stewart Cousins.
Good morning. Happy New Year. Happy affordable New Year. Right, that's what we're doing here today. I am really, really pleased to be here at the Boys and Girls Republic. I was talking to the CEO, and he was bragging about what happens here, and they got mayors, they got legislators. I'm like, well, can I go to meet them? He said, well, they have to go to school. I'm like, oh. It's important. We understand that education is in so many ways the key. And when I was listening to the governor, who was talking about her growing up, you know, I always think about my own and you know, growing up in Amsterdam houses. And all right, Amsterdam, thank you, Gail, I didn't see you. Yeah. And then moving up to Parkside houses and you know, all of the certainty in our lives, because at least my dad was part of a union. And because, yeah, let's give it up for labor. You know, Mario's here, he's gonna talk about it, but there was that stability in terms of at least health care and knowing what the you know, the salary would be there, and you know, there wasn't any arbitrary things. Those were the basics. And then, you know, the child care struggles, being kicked out of child care because I made $7,000 a year, which was too much for them to subsidize. And so fortunately for me, my mom was able to take my son so I could continue working. But imagine, you know, having to give up this big $7,000 a year job in order to take care of your child. It matters, the experiences that you bring to the table, because when we talk about affordability, we're talking to people who actually, I'm not contrasting other places, but we actually, most of us, live that life, have children who are living that life. Still subsidizing daycare for my grandkids, because that's the way it is. And I don't come to this alone, just like the speaker has amazing assembly members who help, you know, us to stay focused. I have a Senate, I must say, the longest serving Senate Democratic majority in the history of the state. Yay. And that's not by accident. It is by design, because of the focus of these people. And I know 3 of them are here. Where is Senator Brian Kavanaugh? Hey, Senator. Give it up for Senator Kavanaugh, Senator Gustavo Rivera, and Senator Jessica Ramos. Every single one of them come to the job of representing you with a focus on how we can make lives better. And the good news is that I'm sitting with partners. I've got a governor whose focus is that, and has brought together a cabinet whose focus is that. I have a speaker who, again, focus is that. So that when we sit down and we figure it out, it's like Henry Street, which, you know, has so many programs going on, whether it's workforce development or it's after-school programming, it's daycare, it's mental health, it's all of the above. And when we sit at the table, it's all of the above, because we understand that the smallest things can make a huge difference. And they don't always have to be something that people are proud to say, I need this, because we still have our pride. And sometimes it's hard to ask for that help. We want to talk to you. We want you to ask for the help. But we also want you to know that we know, even if you don't ask, if we can make your lives easier, we will do that. So today is a day where we're celebrating prenatal leave. And yes, I'm probably the only one. I mean, I guess I, too, like you, the governor, the only one that's had this position that actually could say, I use prenatal leave. Did a little history here in New York. And yes, we're raising the minimum wage, indexing it to inflation so that you don't always have to worry about the political winds that will allow us to be in a table trying to negotiate for higher wages or not. And yes, we understand the importance of health care and not just capping it, but removing co-pays for insulin-dependent people makes all the difference in the world. But I think you hear us. We didn't get to this by accident. We're not just coming up here saying, oh, by the way, you know, what can we do to make you all were mad during elections? So no. We've always been focused on making it more affordable. And as we start the new year, understand that, as the governor said, as the speakers, as the next speakers will say, you are our priority. We will never, ever, ever stop fighting for you because you are us. Happy New Year.
Please welcome Mario Salento.
Thank you, thank you. First of all, I want to acknowledge all of my labor family that's here today. Let's hear it for our family. I want to start by just expressing my good fortune to be able to work with Carl Hastie and Andrea Stewart Cousins at this time, to have this job, to work with who I consider partners and really family for what we do. And family can agree and disagree from time to time, but so much more often than not, we agree, we work together, and I want to thank you both so very much. Let's hear it for Carl, let's hear it for Andrea. And certainly, the state legislators who are here today, I thank you again just for the day-to-day relationship and working together. It means so much. Thank you. I want to start by really acknowledging Governor Hochul. And Governor, I want to say this. I truly, and we all appreciate in the labor movement, how much you actually care about the needs and the concerns of working people, how much it means to you, how much you use your position as governor and all of your leadership abilities to further the cause of workers in this state. And we see it time and time again, and today is just the most recent example. And I say to you, Governor, that I thank you on behalf of the 2.5 million union members in this state, but even more so, all working New Yorkers from Buffalo to New York City to Long Island and everywhere in between. We thank you completely and fully from the bottom of our hearts. Let's hear it for Governor Hochul. Now, you know, when it comes to the minimum wage, still in this day and age, there are so many people, when they hear minimum wage earner, they think of the high school student, they think of the college student who just wants to work after class, have enough money in their pocket to go out with their friends on the weekend and do what college students do. But that's not really the whole story here. Most minimum wage earners are adults, and many of them have children. They have families. So when we raise the minimum wage, we're allowing our minimum wage earners to use every dollar extra that they make to put right back into their family, to their responsibilities, whether it's the food and clothing for their children, whether it's paying the rent and having a roof over their heads, the expenses that all of us have, making sure that they can maintain their responsibilities to their loved ones. When you raise the minimum wage, you allow people to make ends meet. And when you index that wage, you take a burden off of everyone's shoulders. It's mentioned here before, there's peace of mind that goes into knowing that this wage will continue to rise to meet ever-rising costs. That is a huge thing. Yes, the most important thing is to have that money in your pocket, but when you're a parent and having to take care of your children, knowing that from year to year, you're not going to have to fight, or someone's going to ask you to get on a bus and go to Albany and advocate for something like this. There's that peace of mind that is so very important when you're making that wage with all the other responsibilities you have. So that is so very important. The next piece is we have to always remember and keep in mind that when you raise the floor, you raise the ceiling. And the senator mentioned this. You know, the next time for that next tier of worker, just over the minimum wage, the next time their contract expires, or the next time you just have the opportunity to go in and to speak to your employer, the next time you're due for a raise, they now point to the higher minimum wage as the base, which means their salary will go up to that level for that tier, and then the next tier. Over time, all workers across the state will benefit by a raise in the minimum wage. That's the reality. And the last piece is this. We know that minimum wage earners, for the most part, take their earnings and they put them right back into the local community, local small businesses. That means that the small businesses in our communities across this state prosper as well. They do, and that's great. We want to help our small businesses. But keeping in mind, as the small businesses in your communities do well and do better, they pay tax on the added revenue that they make, right? That tax money goes right back into the local tax base, the state tax base, which helps to pay for all of the public services that 20 million New Yorkers rely upon: education, healthcare, sanitation, transportation, law enforcement, firefighters. Everyone wins when we raise the minimum wage over time. And so, Governor, I just want to say thank you for this today. Thank you for what we're talking about. But more importantly, this. One of the basic principles, foundational tenets of the labor movement is simply this: to raise the standard of living and quality of life for working people and their families. The issues that we are talking about today raise the standard of living and quality of life for 20 million New Yorkers. And for that, Governor, we say thank you. Thank you.
Please welcome Rosie Henriquez.
Hello, good morning. My name is Rosie Henriquez. I'm a community healthcare worker. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm here today to talk about the prenatal leave law and what it means to me and what it means to the mothers who are expecting. I'm a mother of a 6-year-old, and I'm currently pregnant with twins. As a working mother, I speak from experience and being present for my child while working, and I can say it's really hard. Juggling with all of that, managing also a high-risk pregnancy like I'm going through right now. I know that going to the doctor regularly and showing up for my prenatal appointments can ensure a better outcome for me and my babies. I also know what would happen if I missed a paycheck. And what would it mean for my family? The choice of being forced to choose between a paycheck and a prenatal check is something I have experienced in the past. This past July, when I recently found out that I was pregnant, I was starting a new role, and I didn't have access to paid leave during my probational period at my job. To ensure the health of my babies, I had to take unpaid leave just to receive medical care, leading me to struggle financially. For too long, working moms like me have had a trade-off. Thanks to Governor Hochul, that's no longer the case in New York. I feel so fortunate to live in a state that supports pregnant women and working families. Again, thank you, Governor Hochul.
Please welcome Dr. Yomaris Pena.
Good morning, everyone, and a happy, new, healthy year. That's all I'm asking for all. So I'm Dr. Yomaris Pena. For those that don't know me, I'm the Chief Medical Officer of Somos Community Care, who has 900 clinics, 2,500 providers, and takes care of 1.5 million patients all over New York. We see 30,000 patients per day in our clinics, just in our communities. And today, I am going to talk from the perspective as a provider, a physician. I'm also an internal medicine board-certified physician that works in Washington Heights. So I take care of the Latino communities, of our brown and black communities, of people that look like us, and everyone in general. So this new law, it's super important for all of us. Today, we are going to talk also about diabetes, because this is the bread and butter that we see in all our clinics. Only in New York, we have 1.8 million adult patients that do suffer from the disease. And if you guys want to understand what that means in dollars, that's $21 billion that we have to take care of due to the consequences of the complications of diabetes. As you guys all know, all these complications are heart disease, kidney disease, the vision, etc. Now, as I stand here today, I'm representing the faces and the voices of many patients that are the backbone of New York. It has broken my heart when I had to hear in my consultation patients that are willing to do the best that they can, but unfortunately, they couldn't afford to place any type of food on their table as they had to decide to provide for their medications. So when you give this balance to the mothers and parents out there, they're always going to give the food to their children. I'm going to share the story of one of my patients. Let's call her CJ to protect her privacy. She's a 47-year-old mother of 3 who works 2 jobs to support her family. She's a diabetic, and each month she faces the impossible choices: pay for her insulin, or she has to sacrifice to buy the essentials for her family. Now, in one occasion, she had to stretch the insulin doses so thin that she ended up in the emergency room with dangerously high blood glucose levels. That was terrifying for her and for her children, as she almost lost her life. With this new law, Governor, we will save her life, and just like her, thousands of lives. So today, I want to thank you once again for thinking about all of us New Yorkers. I want to thank your team. I want to thank the assembly members and the lawmakers, because you guys have fought very hard for each one of us to keep us healthy. So let's all be healthy, let's be happy, and let's keep moving forward. Thank you.
And this concludes our program. Thank you for attending.